Welcome back, baseball fans, to the All-Star break in the 1984, 69, 70, 71 carryover league. This video is going to show the standings, league leaders, second half, what the plans are for the second half. And in a separate video, I'll have an All-Star game selection show, which I'll play Tuesday. Major League Baseball's All-Star Game was scheduled for July 14th in Los Angeles. That, of course, has been postponed. But I'll play a game. I'll play one Tuesday night. I'll probably post it early Wednesday morning. So I just kind of want to go through this league, where it starts. So each year, I start the 4-year carryover league on around St. Patrick's Day. March 17th, and have the draft 8 new players, keep 12 to get to a 20-man roster, and then the first half of the season goes right through to July the 12th, which is today, and each team plays 6 series. So you play your division. There's 8 divisions, 4 teams in each division, so you play each division rival each of your 3 division rivals, you play them a best of 7 series. So in a best of 7 series, the fewest number of games you would play would be 4. The maximum number of games you would play in a best of 7 series would be 7, of course. So the math suggests with 3 division rivals, you play a minimum of 12 and you play a maximum of 21 games. Next you have league series. In the 3 other divisions, you play your same preseason seed in 2 of the 3 divisions, and you play a best of 5. Fewest number of games in a best of 5 would be 3. The most, of course, is 5. And the math there suggests that you would play a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 10. Hold on a second. And then finally, the last of the 6th series you play is interleague. And that's a best of 3. A best of 3. The minimum number of games in a best of 3, of course, is 2. The most is, of course, 3. Times 1. And you get a min of 2 and a max of 3. And if you add these up, it shows that you will play, each team will play a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 34 games in these 6 series between March 17th and July 12th. And the average of these is, of course, 27. 27. So that's the average number of games expected to be played per team. There's 32 teams in the league, which means there's 16 games involving the 32. So you take 16 times 27. And there's your magic number of 432. 432 games. That's how many baseball games you expect to play between March 17th and July 12th in these first 6 series before the All-Star break. So I'm going to look really quickly at the cumulative games in the standings. The American League is 217 and 215. The +2 represents the interleague, so it's a very minor bump. American League over National League, a +2. National League has played more contests, maybe it's more competitive. 226 wins, 228 losses, for a grand total is I've played 443 games. I'll write that number down. 443 games. So I've played 11 more than average. 2% better than average. More games played. More games played than average, just more competition. Shows that you're less likely to get a sweep and more likely to get a competitive series. So the higher this number is, shows that I'm kind of trying to put a really competitive league together with not a lot of, where the bottom feeders play close to the average and the super teams regress to the mean a little bit. So 443, I'm pretty happy with that number. And the next thing we'll do is I'll outline, well, let's just go right to the standings. So 443 games, here are the standings. We're going to start in the American League East. And the Orioles are 18-9. They're in first place, 3.5 games over the Yankees. However, I just played a best of 7 between the two teams. The Orioles won the first 3 games, and yep, look under the category streak. The Yankees came back and won games 4, 5, 6, and 7. And to do that, to come back, they pick up 1 game in the standings on the Orioles, to find themselves 3.5 games out of the All-Star break. Red Sox 4, and Toronto a very respectable 6.5 games back for an expansion team, who you would expect to be the worst team in baseball. Moving on to the American League North, your defending world champion Detroit Tigers are 18-10 in first place. The Indians, these 3 teams are all very within a half game of each other. Very competitive division. The Indians 15-14, and then Ohio and Burlington much better than average. No streaks. The streakiest we've seen was that Yankee comeback right there. Let's keep going into the American League Midwest, which I've considered to be the weakest division in Strat. The Kansas City Royals, and this is just not the Kansas City team you remember in the mid-'70s that won the American League West routinely. This is the expansion 69, 70, 71 Royals, plus a couple guys from 84 like George Brett and Steve Balboni and, Frank White. They are really stunning 18-12. The Twins have the most talent in this division, and they're just a game over 500. White Sox and Brewers are lagging far behind. And in the American League West, here's Cinderella right there, folks. Your Texas Rangers, currently with the #1 winning percentage in the American League, just a half game ahead of the big bad Oakland A's, the Charlie Finley A's. 17-8-9. Seattle, again, this is a very respectable 11-16 for an expansion team. And the dismal California Angels, just having a hard time doing anything right this year, are in last at 6-19. Move over to the National League, and we'll start up in the East. Atlanta Braves. This is top to bottom is only separated by 3.5 games. The Braves had a nice lead early, and that shrank a little bit. The Phillies 16-15. Here's this team right here, the New York Mets. We'll see in a little bit. They have the best pitching staff in the league and one of the worst hitting in the league, and the disparity has hurt them right here in the win-loss category. They've wasted some outstanding pitching by Tom Seaver, Jerry Kuzman, and Dwight Gooden, but they're still just 3 games back in the East. Marlins, not bad again for an expansion team. This division's still up for grabs. The National League Central, the Reds took slight command head-to-head against the Pirates and widened their lead in the division to 3 games. Pirates win the tiebreaker over the Cubs head-to-head. Pirates beat the Cubs head-to-head in a series, so they get the nod for second place. Been a terrible year for the Cardinals, just awful. A team relying on speed is in a division where the Cubs have a -3 arm catcher, Randy Hundley, Manny Sanguin -2, and a Mr. Johnny Bench -4. Not a good year to be a base stealing team if you're St. Louis. The Mountain Time Zone, the 4 expansion teams, and there it is, folks. Cinderella Part 2 or Part 1, whatever you want to call it. And look at this number right next to it. All these classic Hall of Fame rosters, but right now the Colorado Rockies are the #1 seed in the National League. But that is based on beating up on these horrible expansion teams most of the time. So the Rockies will win this division. The other 3 teams aren't really worth discussing at this point. And finally, what I think is the best division, the National League West. And this team here, the Giants, are the best team, in my opinion, in this league. They fell into a #2 currently, slightly behind the Rockies, because this Astro team, I mean, it's like the Giants and Dodgers were supposed to run, you know, be a 2-horse race, but the Astros are saying, hey, don't forget us. Astros just beat the Giants in a best-of-7 to come within 2 games. And right now, the Astros are clinging to the #6 seed of the National League, and it looks like we could see 3 teams, playoff teams from one division. With a .586 winning percentage, the next closest team, well, there isn't one really. All the other teams in the National League are only a single game above 500. So it's looking like Houston, if they don't stumble, they'll be in the playoffs. All right, so let me go back to what happens in the second half of the season. So I have a postseason tournament, and then I have the playoffs. So the first thing that happens after the All-Star game is a postseason tournament that lasts 3 weeks. Postseason tournament, you start with instead of up here we had best-of-7s, best-of-5s, and best-of-3s, we have a up to 7. And then after that round, and up to 5, and then an up to 3. And by up to 7, the #2, the second place team plays the first place team, and the fourth place team plays the third place team. We look at the standings, we factor in the number of games between the two. And what we're trying to determine is that these are like the final 7 games between these 2 matchups, and you're trying to distinguish who's going to be in first at the end of this up to 7 games, and then who's going to be in fourth. And then the fourth place teams all get eliminated, which leaves us with 24 teams after this round. All right, so then you have 24 teams left before the playoffs start, and we're whittling the league down. Next, we have the first place teams play first place teams in the division that they didn't play in the league round. So in the 4 divisions, you played 2 of those divisions up here. You play the third one here. And what this best-of-5 does, it seeds your ones. You play up to 5 games to distinguish the seeding between your first place teams. There's no elimination there. And then the rest of the third place teams visit the second place teams. And you're trying to find 4 more teams. And you eliminate the 8 third place teams. Now you're down to 16. And finally, in the last round here, this best of 3, up to 3 games, you have the last 8 teams in each league. So you have the number 8. Number 8 goes to number 5. And number 7 goes to number 6. and that eliminates 4 more teams to get you down to 12. And that takes you to the playoffs. This tournament lasts for about 3 weeks, gets you to about middle of August, like August 10th. And then the playoffs begin. And the playoffs are set up sort of similar to the NFL playoffs. You have a wild card round. That's going to be a best of 5. You're going to have a divisional round. That's going to be best of 7. League Championship Series, best of 7. World Series, best of 7. And the World Series is played on Labor Day weekend. Let me check. I believe Labor Day Sunday is September the 6th. So the World Series we played on September the 6th. The reason I resolved my league earlier than October, I start in March, so I end a little early as well on September 6th because the National Football League starts playing football normally right after Labor Day, and my attention shifts to football, and so I take a little break from baseball at that point. So that's how the second half is mapped out. So let's take a look at the matchups here. Let's go to the standings. Starting with American League, Orioles, Yankees, and Red Sox, Blue Jays. So here's a picture of the first, the schedule. This is a schedule from the first half. So the Orioles and Yankees, that series was, the Orioles had home field advantage, so this time the Yankees will have home field advantage, and they're 3.5 games back. So here is the up to 7, what needs to happen. The Yankees find themselves 3.5 games out. They are +1 over the Orioles in a head-to-head tiebreaker. They have up to 7 games to make up this deficit. Unfortunately for the Yanks, I mean the Orioles were red hot, and in 7 games plus a tiebreaker, winning 5 of 7 would not be good enough. That would still put them a half game behind, but that would give them a tiebreaker because you have to win your division by at least a game for a tiebreaker. So what the Yankees need to do is they need to win 6 out of 8 games against the Orioles to be in first place at the end of this round. On the elimination side of things, with Boston and Toronto, Toronto has a +2 in the tiebreaker column, and the Blue Jays are 2.5 games back. Now, fortunately for Toronto, they can win, if they win 5 out of 7, they would be a half game ahead, and they would then have the tiebreaker well, so they wouldn't need a tiebreaker. They would be qualified. They'd have third place, and the Red Sox would be eliminated. So Toronto needs to win 5 out of 7 to eliminate Boston. In the next round, Detroit has a 3.5 game lead over Cleveland. And this is similar to the American League East. The Indians, winning 5 out of 7 isn't quite good enough. They need to win 6 out of 8. So 5 out of 7, then I play a 1-game playoff. And here it follows with the rest. Minnesota and Kansas City. Minnesota's 2.5 games back. They need to also go 5 and 2. This is a pretty crazy one here. So Texas and Oakland, this should be a best of 7, right? But if you look closely, if Oakland wins a best of 7, they'd be a half a game ahead, but the Rangers, because they're +3 head-to-head, they'd still win the tiebreaker because the A's would have only picked up 1 game on them. So the A's technically have to win 5 out of 8. Atlanta and Philadelphia, a game and a half back are the Phils. A 5-3 will do that. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, Pittsburgh really blew their chance to close in the last best of 7 I played with them. This is the conventional math right here. They're actually 3 games back, so if they win 5-2, they would be tied and they would win the tiebreaker. So that's the conventional math right there. Here is well, the worst division, if you want to call it that, Colorado and Arizona. Arizona is 6.5 games back, so they need to win 7 in a row. They win 7 in a row, well, they win the division because they have the tiebreaker over the over the Rockies at that point. And here in the best division in the West, the Dodgers just a half game back, and that is a best of 7 between the Dodgers and Giants for first place. All right, finishing out the rest of the elimination teams. Ohio and Burlington separated by a half game, a 5-3. Milwaukee and the White Sox, a half game, also a 5-3. Seattle and California, the Angels are 4 games back, so a 5-2 won't work. A 6-1 will. If they win 6 out of 7, they'd be a game in front, and they'd win the tiebreaker too over Seattle. So yeah, if the Angels can win 6 out of 7. Here's our Mets. This is our underachieving team, and they got to play a best of 7 here. A half game separates them and the Marlins. So that's what the Mets have to do. And if they do that, they can easily get back into the National League race. Cardinals, Cubs. It's been a tough year for the Cards. They're 5.5 games behind the Cubs. And they'd have to win 6. If they win 6 out of 7, that would put them within a half a game. They'd get a 1-game playoff, and they'd have to win 7 out of 8. So the 7 out of 1 right there. These 2 expansion teams, Vegas needs a 6-2. And in the worst chance, and obviously the first team to be eliminated, our good friends, the San Diego Padres, wake up today and find themselves 9 games behind the Houston Astros with 7 games left in the season. So the Padres have to, just because I give every team a chance, they have to win 9 in a row against the Astros. If they win 9 in a row against the Houston Astros, I will eat my spreadsheet, which will be painful, but I will allow the Padres to advance to the next round of the playoffs. So that's the second half schedule, which takes us from now until this tournament ends around August the 10th or so. And by that point, we'll have our 1 to 12 seeds, 4 division winners, and 2 wild cards. So from that, it's time now to take a peek at the stats that at the All-Star break. We have the division standings. First, let's take a look at the team stats. The team stats right now, the Chicago Cubs are hitting .296, leading the team league in batting average. But for some reason, they are currently not qualifying for the postseason. Pitching might have something to do with that. And the Cubs, well, not really. The Cubs have a 3.49 team ERA. That sounds like a lot of bad luck right there. So there's your Colorado Rockies hitting .290, beating up on some expansion teams. The Twins, we know they got a great offense with Killebrew, Carew, Urbic. Here are the Giants. Here are the Tigers. The Yankees, they were dead in the water. Down 3-0 to the Orioles and won 4 straight, and everything changed. They got a heartbeat, and now they have a halfway decent chance of sneaking in a wild card. There's your Dodgers. 2 surprising expansion teams here, Burlington and Ohio. And then it gets to Boston and Pittsburgh. Let's go to near the bottom. California Angels. 14 homers and 50 RBIs. Terrible. Just awful. And unfortunately, look at this. The New York Mets, 223. I mean, my gosh, if you hit 250, you're probably in first place, Mets. Let's take a look at the... there's your league ERA right here. Mets lead the league in ERA, the only team under 3 at 297. The Astros, like I said, they do not sleep on the Astros. Cinderella Texas Rangers, how did they get a 3.38 team ERA? How do they do it? Great bullpen. They have Nolan Ryan as well in the rotation. That'll help. Here's your Giants. Again, they're definitely probably the highest combined pitching and hitting. There's those Cubs. I mean, it's not just a two-horse race with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. The Cubs can just get on a roll here. You know, there's your Twins. Braves are in first place. Expansion team. There's your big bad Oakland A's. And who can't pitch? Let's look at the bottom here. Well, yeah. Milwaukee Brewers with that's not a misprint. Milwaukee Brewers with a 6.40 team ERA, which is almost a run worse than the second worst team. The Arizona Diamondbacks at 5.61. Milwaukee has Don Sutton on the team, and Ken Sanders is a great closer, but they have 6 other horrible guys, I guess. Here's your beloved Padres, the sacrificial lamb, the National League West. And those are your team stats. All right, let's go all the way up to American League hitting. The American League is being led by Frank Robinson, hitting .412 at the All-Star break. Reggie Jackson, .411. This is Terry Francona. I don't know if you know this, but he hit .341 in about 100 at-bats for the Montreal Expos one of his years. I put him on Cleveland since he's the Indians manager, so I thought that was pretty cool. Here's California's lone representative in the All-Star game, Alex Johnson, since the rest of the team's awful. You know. Scrolling down into the other stats, looking for the home run leader in the American League, somebody in double digits. How about 1984 Sixto Lozcano with 10 home runs? That's interesting. Here's Willie Horton with 11. And let's see, look at some RBI leaders. Anybody got 30 in the American League? Oh, there you go. Yeah, Lozcano, 10 and 33. Could be your MVP. The Tribe makes a move in Detroit, and there you go. There's Willie Horton, though, for the Tigers. And let's get down to the pitching. All right, your American League pitchers. I told you that Texas was a Cinderella, and that's why, right here. Nolan Ryan, 84. It wasn't one of his best years, but it was a good enough year. He's 4-1 with a .186 ERA, the only ERA below 2 amongst starters in the American League. This is somewhat shocking. Easy Ed Whitson is 5-0 for the Tribe. Jack Morris always balls out in Strat-O-Matic. Kansas City, Mike Heedlin. That might explain their rookie Heedlin overachieving here. Looking for some win totals. Who gets a couple 6-game winners? Jim Perry and Denny McLain. Like to see that. Sonny Siebert's been carrying the Red Sox with his 6 wins. We have one 7-game winner. Way down here, Vida Blue. His ERA's a little high, but that's a little bit confused because he got blown out on opening day. They got like 8 runs in 2 or 3 innings against him. And since that, he's only lost one other time and slowly brought that ERA down. So that's why Vida Blue has 7 wins, but his ERA, he also has pitched 70 innings. And I believe he and Denny McLain lead the American League pitchers in innings pitched the All-Star break. Closers, Mudcat Grant has 7 saves for the Ohio team. Dan Quisenberry, look at this number. Dan Quisenberry in 17 and 30 inning has 8 saves for a first-place Kansas City team, but his ERA is .571. So it must have gotten blown out once, or in mop-up duty or something, and they just left him in there. Mingori, he's an outstanding pitcher for Cleveland. Lou Marone. I mentioned this guy, Lou Marone, in the Seattle series when they beat Oakland, that he was a guy, he only had 40 innings in the major leagues with the Pirates, and he just disappeared. So Seattle signed him in the expansion round. He's got 7 saves and a .96 ERA, so there you go. Talk about little-known, seldom-used players. Let's go now to the National League. And oh, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? I'm glad to see that right there. Henry Aaron is leading the National League in hitting. 373. He's got 9 homers, 28 RBIs. That's got Hall of Fame written all over it. Here's a little nugget here. Jeff Stone hit 362 in 1984, and he's hitting 360. It's pretty cool. Arizona has a good player, Claudio Washington. He'll probably be their lone representative. Looking for home runs, RBIs, as well as batting average. Colorado, of course, they're in first place with the #1 seed. You got Brant Alea with 10 home runs. Looking for double-digit home runs if I can find it somewhere, anywhere here. Here we go. His average is not that great here, but here's our friend Johnny Bench. He's got 14 home runs and 119 at-bats at the All-Star break, and he'll be your All-Star catcher, I'm sure. Dick Allen. I broadcasted a game with Dick Allen. He had 4 home runs in 1 game. He has 13 on the year. Oh, by the way, I also can find the worst hitters in the league who qualify for at-bats. And that would be, the threshold is 75. So, and here it is, the lowest batting averages end right around here. And that would be Darryl Strawberry of the Mets is hitting $157. That could explain why the Mets are not doing better than they are doing. Bud Harrelson is hitting $1.74. We know the Mets have a lot of potential. Oh, Willie Randolph hitting $208. Yeah. Oh, QB Brooks, $232. So that explains a lot right there. Let's go to the National League pitching, and we'll find the leading vote getter for the All-Star game amongst the National League pitching leaders. And he's not even #1. He's right behind Rick Rhoden. But here he is. Juan Marichal. Sorry about that. Marichal, the ace of the Giants. Best team in baseball. He's 8-0 with a $1.57 ERA. Hey, how about Rick Rhoden, though? 3-0 with a $1.09 ERA, but again, he's only 58 innings. He could be Pittsburgh's representative in the All-Star game. Denny LeMaster 6-1. John Denny 6-1. Looking for other 6 or 7 game winners. Steve Blass, Pittsburgh. Yeah, he just beat Cincinnati on a YouTube video. And any other 6 game winners? Fernando is 6-2 for the Diamondbacks. He might be their representative. And let's see about who's going to be the closer. Oh, here we go. Ron Reed is Colorado's closer, the #1 seed of the National League. Hey, he's got 8 saves, but he also's got a 4.80 ERA. But he's got 8 saves, so. Steve Bedrosian for the Braves, also in first place, is holding up his end at the back end. 6 saves and a $1.98 ERA. John Franco on the Big Red Machine. He's doing the job in the Cincinnati bullpen. That was a difference against the Pirates in a series I just played where the Pirates blew 3 late leads. Franco has 8 saves on the year with a $2.77 ERA. Jeff Reardon, 8 saves for the Phils with a high ERA. And Steve Hamilton has one of the lowest whip Strat-O-Matic cards. He's got 5 saves just because the Giants generally don't need a save. They usually win by so many runs. And that ERA is true. That's a $1.42. He's outstanding. And there you have it. Those are the league standings. Right now, the #1s in each league are your Texas Rangers and your Colorado Rockies. If the season ended today, Texas and Colorado would play in the World Series. So the mission statement is, will the Texas Rangers wilt in the heat of hot Arlington? And will the, once the Colorado Rockies have to face better pitching staffs and their pitchers face better hitters, will they come down to earth instead of beating up on these lowly teams? That's what we will determine in the second half of the season. Thanks everyone for checking out these videos. The next video I post will be an all-star game selection show. Thank you.